Welcome to Hey Wimp, I'm Scarlett, and in today's challenge, we'll be taking a look at the storied rivalry between two of the greatest performers in the history of the wrestling industry, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Will you be able to excellently execute these 21 questions, or will it all turn into a big schmoz? Let's get started. On October 30th, 1990, Shawn Michaels pinned Bret Hart, winning the Rockers their only tag team championship. What happened that erased the match and title switch from history? The top rope broke. Midway through the 2 out of 3 falls match, one of the top turnbuckles detached from the corner structure, turning the match into a disorganized mess. Raw footage of the match is available online, with the wrestlers audibly yelling expletives to get the rope fixed. What did Shawn Michaels tell referee Earl Hebner immediately following Michaels' title victory over Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12? Tell him to get the f*** out of my ring! In the main event of WrestleMania 12, Shawn Michaels defeated Bret Hart for the WWF Championship after a 60-minute Iron Man match. Upon being handed the championship, Michaels glanced over at Hart, loudly yelling to referee Earl Hebner, "Tell him to get the f*** out of my ring." On October 9th, 1996, Bret Hart signed a 20-year contract with the WWF for $10 million. And what additional stipulation regarding his character? Creative control for his final 30 days. The stipulations in Bret Hart's 20-year contract included full compensation in the event of an injury and creative control over his character for the last 30 days if he were ever to decide to leave the WWF. This will be important later on. On February 13, 1997, Shawn Michaels forfeited the WWF Championship due to a career-threatening knee injury along with what other life event? Losing his smile. During his in-ring speech, a tearful Shawn Michaels forfeited the title, ostensibly due to a knee injury, but also due to losing his smile. 3 days after forfeiting the title, it was revealed that Michaels had miraculously healed and wouldn't require surgery after all. On a May 1997 episode of Monday Night Raw, Michaels made a controversial and unscripted comment towards Bret Hart. By what name is this promo often referred? Sunny Days. A slurring Michaels crossed the line between storyline and reality, telling Hart, "Even though you've had some sunny days, my friend, you still can't get the job done." This was a veiled insinuation that Bret Hart was having an affair with one of the female superstars. Where did the infamous backstage scuffle between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels take place on June 9, 1997? Hartford, Connecticut. Tensions boiled over between Hart and Michaels backstage during a Raw taping in Hartford, Connecticut. The consensus is that, after some heated words following the "sunny days" comment, Bret ripped out a handful of Shawn's hair before the two were pulled apart. At SummerSlam 1997, whom did Bret Hart defeat to win the WWF Championship for a 5th and final time, with Shawn Michaels as the guest referee? The Undertaker. The match ended when, after being disrespectfully spat upon by Bret Hart, Michaels attempted to hit Hart with a folding chair. Hart moved out of the way, and Shawn inadvertently hit Undertaker with the chair, followed by a reluctant 3 count and awarding Hart the championship. What news did Bret Hart receive on September 22, 1997, that compelled him to reopen negotiations with WCW? The WWF was breaching his 20-year contract. Bret Hart was told by WWF leadership that they could no longer afford to honor his 20-year contract less than a year into it, as the company was in financial peril due to the encroaching threat of Ted Turner's WCW. This allowed Hart to reopen negotiations with the rival organization. On the October 6, 1997 episode of Raw, what name did Bret Hart call Shawn Michaels, which Michaels quickly adopted as part of his persona? Degenerate. Hart, surrounded by his teammates from the Hart Foundation, told Shawn Michaels that he was nothing but a degenerate, along with several other comments that really didn't age well. The following week, Shawn's faction was officially named D-Generation X. On October 12, 1997, Bret Hart met with Shawn Michaels, telling him, "I have no problem dropping the belt to you." What was Michaels' response? "I'm not willing to do the same thing for you." Hart, knowing he'd be defending the title against Michaels at Survivor Series 1997, told him he had no problem working with him and no issues dropping the title to him. Michaels responded, "I appreciate that, but I want you to know that I'm not willing to do the same thing for you." Well, halfway there. How are you doing so far? If you're enjoying this challenge, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to be the first to know about new challenges as soon as they're available. Thanks so much for being a part of our journey. Now, let's dive back into the challenge. On November 2nd, 1997, Bret Hart gave his notice to the WWF. He also refused to drop the title to Shawn Michaels in Montreal. On what grounds was he able to make this demand? The creative control clause in his contract. As part of Bret Hart's still valid 20-year contract, he had reasonable creative control over his last 30 days of employment, meaning that he couldn't leave under circumstances that weren't mutually agreed upon by him and WWF leadership. What WWF official was assigned as the referee for the Survivor Series championship match in Montreal? Earl Hebner. Earl Hebner was a referee Hart knew he could trust to officiate the match. According to Hart, Hebner, with tears in his eyes, swore on his children that he would quit his job before participating in any type of chicanery. What was the agreed-upon finish to the championship match at Survivor Series, deemed mutually acceptable by both Bret Hart and WWF leadership? A disqualification due to a run-in. After multiple proposed scenarios, none of which benefited Hart, it was agreed to end the match in a schmoz, or disqualification, via a run-in. Hart offered to surrender the title the following night on Raw, feeling it gave him the opportunity to leave the WWF with his head up. What added insurance did Bret Hart bring with him to the Survivor Series to make sure that everything in the main event went according to plan? A documentary film crew. A film crew had been following Hart around for over a year, and their appearance at events and tapings was commonplace. During Hart's final conversations with management, he wore a wire while discussing the agreed-upon finish, and that audio appeared in the documentary. What sponsor presented the 1997 Survivor Series from Montreal, Quebec, Canada? Milton Bradley's Karate Fighters. The event was presented by Milton Bradley's Karate Fighters, action figures mounted on bases with triggers or buttons that players could manipulate in mock battle sequences. WWF superstars like Jerry Lawler and Billy Gunn were featured in the commercials. Who was the timekeeper assigned to the match, ringing the bell when Earl Hebner prematurely signaled for him to do so? Mark Yaton. Mark Yaton had the dubious honor of ringing the bell at the conclusion of the Survivor Series main event after being ordered to do so by WWF leadership. Yaton is also well known as the man who would toss beers to Steve Austin, which Austin would seemingly snatch out of midair. Following the match at Survivor Series, Bret Hart confronted Shawn Michaels in the dressing room asking, "Shawn, you weren't in on that?" What was Michaels' response? "I had no idea." The confrontation between Bret and Shawn was actually filmed and can be seen online. Michaels is off camera, but clearly swears loudly and denies involvement. According to Hart, he told Michaels that he would judge him by what he did the following night on Raw. Immediately following the Survivor Series, Bret Hart took a leap of faith and contacted this journalist to tell his side of the story about what happened in Montreal. Dave Meltzer. Hart reached out to wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer, who meticulously detailed Hart's account of what transpired, leading up to what has since been coined the Montreal Screwjob. The events leading up to the showdown between Shawn and Bret in Montreal were captured while filming what award-winning documentary. Hitman Hart, Wrestling with Shadows. Hart had partnered with filmmaker Paul J. to film a documentary on his life in the wrestling business during what would turn out to be Hart's final year with the WWF. According to Jay, the gods of documentary filmmaking were with him as he captured these unprecedented events. In 2002, Shawn Michaels admitted prior knowledge of and participation in the controversial finish in Montreal. On what WWE TV program did he admit his involvement? WWE Confidential. After 5 years of vehement denial of involvement, Michaels appeared on a segment of WWE Confidential, stating, yes, I knew. And how I'd found out about it is that I was told, this is the decision we're making. On January 4, 2010, Bret Hart returned to Monday Night Raw after 12 years. What was his first order of business? Making peace with Shawn Michaels. Hart summoned Michaels to the ring, offering Michaels his hand in friendship. Michaels, after asking if Hart was sure, shook Hart's hand to a loud ovation. Taking a few steps away, Michaels paused briefly, teasing a superkick, but instead turned back and embraced Hart. Hey guys, thanks for watching. How did you do? Let us know in the comments down below. Send us your suggestions on future trivia topics that you'd like to see. There's lots more to come, so be sure to hit that subscribe button to join our community and ring the bell to be notified of future content. I'm Scarlett. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you back soon, right here at Hey Wimp.